The Army of Dead. Final episode. The streets of China are invaded by an army of the dead. They do not feel pain. They do not stop. The military arrives with tanks, guns, and rockets. But the bullets just bounce off. Metal and fire mean nothing to those who are already dead. In the middle of the chaos, Dr. Wei and Bojing make a terrifying discovery. Science cannot save them. Only an ancient magic can. They must find the forbidden tablet. The spell that brought this army to life is the only way to destroy them, but it must be read backwards. The clock is ticking. One wrong word, and the world ends. Can they reverse the curse in time? Let's hear the complete story now.
Filled with the sound of thunder, but there was no rain. The modern army had arrived. Soldiers lined the rooftops, and tanks blocked the roads. A soldier named Zhen fired his rifle at a terracotta warrior. The bullet hit the clay chest with a sharp metallic ping and fell to the ground. The clay soldier did not even slow down. It kept marching, its stone face cold and dead. High above the chaos, General Jun stood on top of a crushed bus. He raised his bronze sword, and the sky turned a bruised purple. A massive rocket roared through the air and exploded directly against Jun's chest. The fire was bright enough to blind a man, but when the smoke cleared, Jun was still standing. Not a single crack marked his body. He let out a silent, terrifying laugh that shook the windows of nearby skyscrapers. Dr. Wei and Bojing watched the horror from a speeding jeep. "Bullets cannot kill what is already dead," Wei shouted over the roar of the engines. He looked at his shaking hands. He knew this was his fault. He had touched the stone, but the tablet Bojing found held the answer. "The spell!" Wei cried. "The tablet said the soul is bound by words. If we read them backwards, we can break the bond." They raced back to the ruins of the museum where the ghost army had first risen. The building was a skeleton of twisted metal and broken glass. Bojing slammed on the brakes, and they jumped out into the dust. "We have to find the tablet," Bojing said, his voice tight with fear. "If Jun finds us first, the world is finished." They ran into the dark, crumbling entrance. Inside the tilted hall, they found the ancient stone tablet buried under a pile of bricks. Bojing used all his strength to heave a heavy beam aside. There it was, glowing with a faint, dying red light. The ancient symbols seemed to squirm like snakes on the stone surface. Wei dropped to his knees and wiped away the grit. "It's all here," he whispered, "the beginning and the end." A shadow fell over them. The air became freezing cold. General Jun had followed them. He stepped through the ruined wall, his heavy clay feet crushing the stone floor. He looked down at Wei with eyes of burning coal. He did not want the tablet to be read. He raised his heavy sword high, ready to strike the doctor down. Bojing did not hesitate. He grabbed a heavy iron pipe from the rubble and swung it at Jun's legs. The impact vibration nearly broke Bojing's arms, but it distracted the giant for a second. Jun turned his head, his red eyes narrowing at the young man. "Read it, Wei," Bojing screamed. "Read it now." Bojing stood his ground, tiny compared to the clay monster. Wei closed his eyes and focused on the last word of the inscription. He began to speak in a voice that was not his own. The words were ancient and harsh. He started from the bottom of the tablet, working his way up. As he spoke the backward spell, the air around him began to swirl into a violent vortex. The glowing red light from the tablet began to turn a cold, ghostly blue. General Jun froze in mid-swing. The red fire in his eyes flickered and died. Cracks began to race across his face, glowing with the same blue light that surrounded Wei. Jun let out a hollow, metallic groan as his sword shattered into 1,000 pieces. Wei shouted the final word of the reverse spell, and the clay general began to crumble into fine gray dust. Across the city, thousands of clay soldiers fell at once. They turned back into silent, broken statues. The red glow vanished from the streets. Wei and Bojing walked out of the ruins into the first light of dawn. The nightmare was over, but the earth was forever changed. They looked at the piles of dust and stone, knowing the secret of the ghost gate was finally closed for good.